Good morning and welcome back to Sunday Storytime here on Gaming with ADHD, where today we are continuing our read-through of Star Wars Scoundrel's Luck, a solitaire adventure starring Han Solo. Now, this is part 18 of the series. If this is your first time here, go ahead and go back to episode 1. There will be a link down in the description, and that way you can get caught up and see where we're at. Because as a choose-your-own-adventure style story, it is up to you, the viewers, to decide what paths and what decisions we're going to make as we play the game. So, last week, if you were here, you will remember that we ended up at a stopping point. Han got shot by some TIE fighters, and the Falcon was losing air pressure, and it doesn't tell us what happened to him. It just told us that that was the end of the story. Now, because it is a choose-your-own-adventure story, and this does happen from time to time, we have opted to have 3 lives and be able to, backtrack a couple of times and fix the story if we need to. Now, unfortunately, we've already used it twice with last week's story. So, there's only 1 life left in order to complete the story. So, here we are. So last week, actually, before I get into that, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Okay, as we go through, I want to make sure that you're notified and you know when the next episode is coming out. And so, subscribe to the channel, hit like if you enjoy the video, all the fun YouTube stuff. But you're not here for that. So let's get into today's story. So last time, Han Solo had the choice of looping around and staying between the TIE fighters, which was a bad choice. It didn't work for him. So this time, our choice is Han diving towards one fighter. So let's see what happens. Han opens the drives to maximum, pulling up hard into the path of the TIE fighter targeting on his top side. The 2 starships hurtle towards each other. Surprise at the bold maneuver seems to have frozen the Imperial pilot, who stops firing but fails to initiate evasive action. The lower TIE follows blindly behind the Falcon, still blasting red bolts around the Corellian freighter. Grimly, Han holds his course. The range between his vessel and the forward TIE closes startlingly fast, and as it closes, the chance of their dying, either from a point-blank laser blast or from a head-on collision, increase. At last, the Imperial fighter wavers, then slews upward, narrowly avoiding a ship-to-ship crash, and climbing straight into an oncoming laser bolt from his fellow pilot. Han crows as the TIE flashes blindingly white and expands into a ball of flame. The closeness of the explosion rocks the Millennium Falcon badly. Chewie interrupts the smuggler's gaiety with a hurried damage report. "Who cares?" Han replies. "Why do we need flux stabilizers, power converters, cooling systems, and what else?" "Not the sensor array," Han exclaims. "Now that makes me mad." He pushes the Falcon into a belly loop that brings him face to face with his remaining attacker. Not bothering with the targeting computer, Han directs the gunwales manually and opens fire. The surprised Imperial releases a few shots in return, but they go far wide of the Falcon. A moment later, the TIE erupts into a ball of flame. "That sensor array cost us 5,000 credits, fella," Han explains to the fast-fading flames. Having disposed of the immediate Imperial threat, Han opens a hailing channel and addresses the Corvette. "Disabled Corvette, this is the Free Freighter Millennium Falcon. Do you desire further assistance?" Han smugly awaits the affirmative response. "Your offer brings us great joy, Falcon," responds a man's voice. "We will prepare the starboard docking door." Before maneuvering into position, Han checks the locations of the Star Destroyer and the 3 other TIE fighters. He still has at least 8 minutes before either approaches close enough to pose a danger. Han smiles. He will need only 5 to load his passengers, make the next hyperspace calculations, and escape. He swings the Falcon into position with the confidence he hopes his passengers will note. The airlocks equalize pressure, and Han deactivates the Falcon's security program. He awaits his guest with a magnanimous smirk. When the lock opens, however, Han's smile fades and he reaches for his blaster pistol. The crew he has rescued consists of elite stormtroopers and an Imperial officer. The stormtroopers make no move to raise their own weapons. Instead, the officer removes his vac suit helmet and says, "Please do not worry. I am Sodara, commander of these stormtroopers. We are deserters." He is a short, stocky man with vaguely oriental features. Han does not lower his blasters. "Stormtroopers don't desert," he said. Captain Sodara shrugs. "And stormtroopers do not attack Imperial craft. One of us must be mistaken." The man looks Han squarely in the eye. "I will understand if you must abandon us." "I decide who I abandon and who I rescue." Han holsters his blaster. "Right now, you're on my good side. Call the rest of your crew." Sodara hesitates. "We have one rather large piece of luggage." "How large?" Han asks skeptically. "We must load it through an exterior cargo hatch. Even now, my men prepare it." "Mister, we've got just about," Han looks at his chronometer, "4 minutes before an Imperial Star Destroyer and a flight of TIEs get here." "Yes, I know," the captain answers calmly. "Nevertheless, we will not abandon our cargo. If you cannot wait, I will understand." Han sighs. "I told you, I decide who I abandon. Chewie, open the cargo hatch. I'll start hyperdrive calculations." A jolting explosion and an orange storm of energy announces the Eradicator's arrival. "Concussion missiles!" Han gasps. "These guys mean business." A moment later, the destroyer's turbo laser batteries light the blackness around the Falcon as if she has wandered into a small sun. Han looks at the flight computer. The destroyer is still a tremendous distance behind the Falcon. It has opened up at just less than maximum range, then purposefully overshot the Falcon. Apparently, the destroyer captain does not wish these deserters to escape. Han stops the hyperdrive calculations. The Falcon stands trapped between the destroyer and a grid of death. If they try to enter hyperspace through the destroyer's salvo, they will be melted into slag before reaching proper velocity. Han hits the intercom switch. "How's that loading?" Sodara answers. "A minute longer." "And we'll be free-floating molecules," Han finishes. "That destroyer captain thinks he's engaging a battle cruiser." Despite his anxious words, Han knows he cannot yet budge the Falcon. Sodara's crew has still not entered the ship. If he moves now, they will fall free and be taken by Imperials or abandoned to a lingering death. In addition, Han does not know where Chewbacca is. He would never risk Chewbacca's life simply to save his own. So Han sits in the cockpit for 60 seconds and observes the Eradicator's wedge slowly closing to tractor beam range. All the while, the destroyer's weapon bursts cascade ever closer. Despite the awe-inspiring power of the destroyer's weapons, Han does not enjoy the display. Finally, Chewbacca growls over the intercom, and Han punches the Falcon's sublight drive beyond specification. He does not need to waste time deciding which way to flee. The Imperials have left only one choice: into Montori's rings. As Han drops the Falcon into a corkscrew drive toward the planet, an Eradicator turbo laser bolt strikes Sodara's Corvette. The ship simply disappears. Captain Sodara crawls into the cockpit. "My gratitude for your patience," he says. Let's not cut it so close next time, okay?" Han responds. He looks at the flight computer. The destroyer has now commenced providing it with its tractor beams. "Where are we going?" asks Sodara, eyeing Montari's growing rings. The destroyer stops firing. The 3 TIE fighters fall in behind the Falcon, but they have a long way to go before reaching their range. A series of silhouettes separate from the Eradicator. They can only be more fighters. "Into that rainbow," Han answers. Sodara nods. In there, the tractor beam will find more than Governor General Vellum expects. A wise move. "That's the governor of the Bright Jewel?" Han asks, pointing at the destroyer wedge. "Yes," Sodara nods. "Leia really did it this time." Han has no time to question Captain Sodara further. They are entering Montari's first ring. As he hoped, the ring is easily thick enough to conceal the Falcon, about 1.5 kilometers. It consists mostly of pebble-sized rocks and ice, which occasionally slip through the weakened shields to skitter across the Falcon's hull with irritating high-pitched squeals. Unfortunately, the ring also contains enough large chunks to keep Han busy dodging. Although Han does not relish the debris abuse of his ship, the pebbles will clog the Eradicator's tractor beams with tons of useless rock and ice. The Falcon's recent finished job seems a reasonable trade-off for eluding a Star Destroyer. The TIE fighters reach the ring a few seconds behind Han. They do not enter it, however. They remain outside the ring and take pot shots. Han breathes a sigh of relief. "They intend to pin us here until we hit something," Sodara gasps. Relax, Han says smugly. You're riding with the best smuggler this side of Shadowr. As if to prove him wrong, a dozen boulders appear in front of the cockpit. Han jerks the controls with maniacal precision, hoping as much as attempting to dodge the largest chunks. His efforts do not succeed completely. One man-sized chunk of ice bounces off the forward hull. The Falcon's power fails immediately. The drives cut out, and internal life support systems fail. Chewie, Han yells, alarmed. What happened? Chewbacca bellows a response. Hot rodding, Han replies. That hurts. Chewbacca ignores him and rummages around in the dark. The Falcon continues to drift, ice and rock now bouncing off the hull with painful regularity. No one says a word as Chewbacca pounds and growls, then growls and pounds. Finally, a terrible thump sounds and the power returns. My first mate's a technical wizard, Han casually tells Captain Sodara. Before Sodara can respond, Chewie says, Anwar? What do you mean you don't know how long it will last? Chewbacca growls. I think he means just that, Captain Sodara observes. Han dodges another man-sized rock, then studies his flight computer. The TIE fighters and destroyer are so close, the vid screen shows only one wedge. He looks overhead. Beyond the ring's debris, a great white mass of metal fills the horizon. Han cannot see the edge of the destroyer in any direction. How'd that get there, he asks. Turbo laser salvos strike rock and ice around the Falcon. Within a matter of seconds, Han estimates a very big gap will open in Montori's outer ring. Hold on, Han yells. I'm taking us in. He drops the Falcon out of the ring and accelerates. His move takes the Imperials by surprise, buying enough time to reach Montori's atmosphere before the TIE fighters jump the Falcon. The destroyer, Han knows, is an old one, which can skim outer layers of planetary atmosphere, but he has to gamble that Governor General Vellum will not risk crossing the rings to catch a battered Corellian freighter. A moment later, high clouds engulf the Falcon. As it flashes between cloud banks, Han looks for a mountain valley he can use to foul his pursuer's tracking equipment. Chewbacca, who has climbed into the upper laser cannon turret, reports that only 2 TIEs are following. Finally, Han drops out of the clouds and finds a deep valley. Snow and narrow bristling trees line it, and a long river of ice fills its bottom. Perfect, Han exclaims. He drops the Falcon so low that it barely clears the ice pinnacles rising from the glacier. A few moments later, Chewbacca reports the TIEs have turned back. Hugging the valley walls, Han rises to the top of the ridge and slips into the next valley. As he attempts the second time, the Falcon's power cuts out. Chewie, I thought you fixed that. Chewbacca only growls in response. An instant later, the Falcon plows into a deep carpet of snow. Han does not know how long he has lain unconscious, but when he awakes, he is resting in a bunk. Captain Sodara stands over him. You'll be just fine, Captain Solo. That was the finest flying I've seen in my many years. Thanks, Han. Thanks. Han tries to get up. My head hurts. Rest, Captain Sodara says. I've posted pickets. The Falcon lies safely hidden beneath the snow. One of Sodara's men bursts into the room. An inch of snow caps his head and shoulders. Blizzard Force snow troopers approaching, sir. Squad strength. Any AT-AT walkers, Sodara asks. Negative. It's a reconnaissance unit. I'll catch up on my sleep later, Han says, reaching for his blaster. After donning a white parka, Han follows Sodara outside. The Falcon lies completely buried in soft snow atop the glacier, but its crash has dug a long furrow which betrays its hidden resting place. Han's heart sinks. Beating Alfreda to Tatooine will be impossible now, if he can get there at all. He has to restrain himself from hitting Sodara. Leia's life is in danger because the captain insisted upon bringing along his precious cargo. Han sticks his hands in his pockets and follows Sodara along the furrow to take a lookout's position. The Falcon has crashed into the bottom of an immense glacial valley, perhaps 20 kilometers across. On both sides of the valley, steep, rocky ridges rise a kilometer or more into the cloudy gray-white sky. To Han's left, the great glacier continues 15 kilometers up the valley before it turns sharply to the right and disappears behind a rocky gray cliff. To Han's right, the glacier runs another 5 or 6 kilometers up the valley before it turns sharply to the right and disappears behind a rocky gray cliff. To Han's right, the glacier runs another 5 or 6 kilometers, then abruptly drops away into a larger valley. Another ice-filled ice field fills the larger valley, and beyond it another immense escarpment rises to block the horizon. Here and there, gray-streaked peaks of vast proportions stick their crowns above the ridge. A lonely cold wind blows intermittently down the valley, carrying with it powdery puffs of whirling snow. As magnificent as the landscape is, its sparseness oppresses Han. Everything, the sky, the glacier, the valley walls, is dirty gray. The occasional hints of color are too pale to accurately be labeled blue. Where the mountains find a way to poke through their wintry blankets, they reveal only rock, ranging in shade from white-gray to black-gray. Even the sharply pointed trees dotting the ridges seem no more than dark specks in the snow. The infrequent moaning of the wind is the only sound. If creatures live nearby, they will not reveal their presence audibly. The snowy blanket muffles all noise, lapping at the wind and spreading a forlorn hush up and down the valley. The solitude of their position suddenly troubles Han. If they cannot repair the Falcon, their only hope of rescue may lie in capture. At the moment, Han would welcome the companionship of even some kithless predator's hungry howl. At least that would prove something could survive in these barren wastes. The lookout, one of the faceless stormtroopers belonging to Sudar's company, points at the valley's right wall, 2 kilometers distant. At first, Han sees only snow, the dark angles of trees, and gray outcroppings of stone. Eventually, a row of white lumps crosses in front of a gray outcropping. "I count 12, sir," the trooper reports. "They haven't seen us." Han studies the kilometer-long furrow behind the Falcon. "But if they cross the valley, they won't miss this ditch." Sudar nods. "No doubt. We must destroy them before they report our location." "They'll drop out of sight when they reach the glacier edge," the lookout reports. "The scouts reported a deep moraine trench along that whole wall. Perhaps we could deploy as they cross it." "Yes," Captain Sudar responds. Han interrupts with his opinion. He sees 2 likely positions, and he wants to remind the ex-Imperials who is in charge. Either he and Chewie can work around behind the approaching squad, or they can wait, hiding in the furrow and hoping the Imperials investigate up close before reporting. All right. That was a long one, but we've got 2 choices. So is Han and Chewie going to sneak around and get behind the stormtroopers? Or is he going to recommend hiding in the ditch caused by the Falcon? That's going to be up to you guys. Make sure you leave a comment down below so that I know which segment of the story to take next. But regardless, I do appreciate you being here watching. And make sure you come back next week for the next episode. So, we'll talk to you next time.